Hello, my name is Mark Berry. I'm a 4-year Air Force veteran and close to 20 years of DoD fire service. Last year, June of 2019, we happened to have one of the hardest parts of our lives happen. We had a medical with me, ended up with massive hemoptysis. And during that time, while I was in the medically induced coma, my wife frantically looked for help. She found the congressman's office, which responded extremely quickly. They found out that I was improperly coded in the VA and quickly helped to fix it, which allowed me to get a medical flight to UCLA and get the medical treatment I needed, and that's why I'm here today.
I just want to say to anyone out there, if you have any federal issues, please visit your congressman's office to see what resources are available.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Buenas, buenas, buenas. Hi, everything. Sorry, we got cut off there. We're back. This is Brace Yourselves Part 3. We are still waiting for the Guam legislature to come out of that moment's recess from about 12 minutes ago. Not kidding. So while we're waiting, let's review the staffing pattern of the Guam legislature so everyone can know what everybody makes. Now, I'm pretty sure this is not all that updated, but let's just see. All right, the legislature. Where would it be? Under finances, right? Staffing pattern. FY 2020 first quarter. So this is the staffing level and the pay that each staffer gets between October 1 of last year through December 31 of last year. Senator Mary Torres has only 4 employees. Sarah Elmore is her chief of staff. She gets $31 an hour. Hazel Estrelado is her communications director. She gets $21 an hour. Katrina Charfris gets $14.50 an hour. And Uncle Paps Martinez, who is part-time, gets $8.25 an hour. I guess that was before the minimum wage law went into effect. Oh, that was fast.
Sabina Guahan is back from recess. Senator Sabina, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, I would like to withdraw the amendment because I would like to create a bill on its own. And considering that we still need to get information regarding the MOAs between GovGuam and the U.S. government regarding COVID-related expenses. And I hope that hazard pay is included in that. So it's something that I would like to research a little bit more so that businesses who are contracted to do COVID-related response, that there is a fund that is available to them to be able to supply workers, and also perhaps provide more time to, if there's some issues with contracts, midway into a contract, we want to make sure that there is some coverage for businesses in addition to the workers that they hire. So I would like to, for those reasons, I'm withdrawing the amendment, but I'm still moving forward with the effort to ensure that frontline responders, whether they work for government or for the private sector, are protected. This is
Thank you.
Masi.
On the motion to withdraw Senator Perez's amendment, are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Anyone else on the main motion? Anyone else? If not, Vice Speaker, you may close.
Speaker, I have an amendment to proffer. I submitted it to the clerk's colleagues. This amendment is, there's three amendments on the same page, if you can just follow along with me so we can go down the line. The first one is on line 3, page 2. Are we all on the same page?
Please proceed. Yes.
Okay, I see some of our colleagues still pulling it up. Okay. During line 3, page 2 is to amend the bill to read during a public health emergency and in response to COVID-19, any government of Guam employee who in the line and scope of his or her employment constitutes an essential employee within any following category shall be entitled to COVID-19 hazardous differential pay as follows. And so if we move further down, this is within the same section, and it just corrects the individual's pay. So we line out the words of the individual's pay and just put differential to. And the reason for that is we want to ensure that they're still able to receive their enhancement pays, like other pays that like their overtime pay or their double time pay. But we want to also ensure that there's due diligence where we can give the employee the hazardous pay for the COVID-19 response, rather than ensure to stop it from having them get double hazardous pay. And so we just want to make sure that's very clear that you are receiving this hazardous pay primarily for COVID-19 response.
On the amendment, are there anyone wishing to speak? If not, Senator
This
sorry.
amendment was
Sorry,
recommended by legal, and so I'm proffering this amendment with the recommendations by legal just to make it more clear.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. On the Vice Speaker amendment, Senator Perez, you are recognized.
Just a moment, I just need to find the amendment itself. I don't see it in front of me, so if you can give me a moment.
I actually don't even know what amendment they're talking about. I think this is a main amendment to the bill that the Vice Speaker is proffering. To be honest with you, I was making myself a plate of food and I didn't listen to any of it.
Did they go to recess again?
I don't think, are they in a recess?
I didn't hear it.
No, they're not in a recess. They're just on a standby or something.
They're not calling it a recess anymore.
Oh my gosh, what if they know that we're ticking in the number of recesses and now they're just ignoring, they're using the word recess. Amy Jackson says, no witch, sit down, you don't need a bathroom break. Alyssa Shintaka says, sometimes I wish the speaker would flat out ask, huh? Because I am not following all of what they're saying. This sounds so confusing. Ansley Jackson says they have to find the amendment. Clayton Hill says the late Senator Ben Pangilinan always came prepared and ready to get his point and initiatives across. He always spoke with great intelligence, wisdom, confidence, and determination. He was there. If he was there, things would surely get done now to help the people of Guam. I rarely saw him ever confused or need so much as a recess. I used to work in the legislature in the 90s. It was definitely different back then in a good way. He's right. Clayton's right. I'm getting information. Thank you, Kandit Lamb. Senator Salinas' amendment is to make it clear that the differential pay is on top of whatever the employee is receiving. Oh, okay, I see. And they merged two bills, so now this bill reflects the executive order on the hazardous pay. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Viv, for that. I appreciate that. I hear the mic back on.
Colleagues, we are still on the Vice Speaker's amendment. Senator Sabina, you are recognized to speak on the amendment. Anyone else wishing to speak on the amendment? If not, are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion carries. Vice Speaker, you're still recognized on another amendment.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm still waiting from legal for this one last amendment. We received a letter from the AG, and so we want to make sure that we're not, when we implement this, there's no lawsuit against us perhaps. So we are working with the AG and for one amendment, and we're waiting on our legal counsel for another. So you can just give me a quick recess.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. I'll afford you that. We are in a moment's recess.
Shot number 10. Recess number 10. Let's go back to the legislature staffing pattern. Where is that? Where did it go? Oh, here we go. You know, I'm going to jump around here. Senator Joe St. Augustine's staffing pattern. Joe Messner is Chief Policy Analyst, $17 an hour. Rosemary Mesa, Office Manager, $16 an hour. Joanne Kuneni, Policy Research Analyst, $15 an hour. Hope Delis Rages, Legislative Administrative Assistant, $15 an hour. Peter John Johnson, Policy Research Analyst, $14.50 an hour. Catherine Leon Guerrero, Policy Research Analyst, $14 an hour. Vincent Beneventi, Community Relations Liaison, $12.50 an hour. Crystal Augustine, Communications Specialist at $14.50 an hour, and that's part-time. And Robert Underwood, Policy Research Analyst, part-time at a rate of $250 an hour. Interesting. Senator Amanda Shelton has 3 staffers. John Paul Manuel, Policy Analyst at $27.90 an hour. Aguaran Iriarte, Policy Analyst at $14 an hour. And Evelyn St. Augustine Claris, Administrative Officer at $1,600 an hour. What in the world? That must be a mistype. Or it gotta be a mistype. Senator Will Castro's office. Jose Mesa, Chief of Administration and Operations, $19.50 an hour. Marianne Babalta, Office Manager, $615 an hour. There's something wrong with all of this. That's at part-time. And Francis Tovis, Community Liaison at $1,000 an hour. There's something wrong with how the legislature is presenting this information. Senator Luis Muña, Ed Lee, Special Assistant, $27.89 an hour. And I'll tell you, worth every penny. Ed Lee is a legislative institution. He's probably the guy who writes most of the bills for a bunch of senators. Jim Turbio, Chief of Staff at $26.59 an hour. Barbara Letty, Support Services Assistant at $15 an hour. Senator Sabina Perez's office. She has 4 staffers. Cyrus Lure, Senior Policy Analyst at $28.50 an hour. Charlene Flores, Chief of Staff at $26 an hour. Francine Salas, Policy Analyst at $24 an hour, and Evan St. Nicholas, Office Manager at $15 an hour. Senator Pito Sherlahi's office, Chirisa Tenora is no longer with him. Chris Carrillo, Policy Analyst, $21.25 an hour. Therese Hart, Legislative Analyst at $20 an hour. Angela Rosalind, $17 an hour. Daleen Wacky, Legislative Aide, $16 an hour. Kristen Garrido, Legislative Assistant at $13 an hour. Chriselle Cruz, legislative assistant at $11.50 an hour. Edine Torres, administrative assistant, $11 an hour. Tina Nangalta, legislative assistant, $880 an hour. I'm not understanding. Mary Duenas, part-time legislative aide, $362 an hour. There's something. I don't know what's going on with all that. Senator Dr. Kelly G. Marsh Titano. She has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She has 7 staffers. Ricky Orsini is her senior policy advisor at $29.85. Roland Villaverde is chief of staff at $26.44 an hour. Victor Lujan, community liaison, $20.23 an hour. Retta Hamilton, office manager, $16.35 an hour. Trisha Rosalind, administrative assistant, $11 an hour. Maria Hernandez, part-time community liaison, $20.23 an hour. And Tristan Quintanilla, part-time legislative youth envoy at $300 an hour. Senator Jim Moylan, 3 employees. Trina J. Apatang, office manager at $19 an hour. Christina Blas no longer is there. She's over at the court now. And Savannah Baza, legislative aide at $11 an hour. Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes, she no longer has her chief of staff, Mary Farron. Alan Cepeda, committee director at $22 an hour. Chirag Bojwani, communications director at $22 an hour. Stephanie Lorenzo, policy and research analyst at $12 an hour. Matthew Makepeace, policy and research analyst, $12 an hour. And Amanda Alleg, policy and research analyst at $11 an hour. Telos Heidegui, she's got 2. Jason Tetautal, chief of staff, $31.25 an hour. And Rowena Farron, senior staff assistant at $25 an hour. She no longer has that last employee, Christopher Flores. Who did I skip over here? Clint Rigel. Selena Onadera Salas, chief of staff, $25.80 an hour. Espenson Hyman, community liaison, $12.50 an hour. Erin Grajic, office manager, $11 an hour. She's my old classmate. Angela Santos, she's pretty badass. Community liaison, $11 an hour. Mike Carlson, senior policy advisor, $2,040 an hour. There's something wrong with that. Javen Santos, part-time, policy analyst, $400 an hour. Who did I skip? Selena Nelson. Peter Mesa, chief of staff, $31.25 an hour. Bernice Rivera, office manager, $18 an hour. Tihu Lujan, communications specialist, $15.40 an hour. Jesse Lujan, policy analyst, $14 an hour. Is that Senator Jesse Lujan? I think so, right? Because it says Jesse A. Lujan. Sierra Camacho, research analyst, $13 an hour. Michelle Dulana, research analyst, $13 an hour. Renee Pope, legislative assistant at $9.50 an hour. Desiree Mesa, part-time policy analyst, $800 an hour. Regine Lee, Philip Leon Guerrero. Yes, Philip from what was the name of his show? On K57?
4-hour Phil.
Your 4-hour Phil. Chief Policy Advisor, $33.65 an hour. I can tell you from my professional experience with Phil, he's worth every penny. Janine Cordero, Office Manager, $24.50 an hour. Orlean Villasoto, Legislative Assistant, $17 an hour. Christian Valencia, Part-Time Committee Director, $22 an hour. And Michelle Moffness no longer is there. She was a legislative intern. Did I go over Therese Terlahi yet? No, right? Sia Uggan Cruz, Chief of Staff, $28.85 an hour. Charissa Manabusan, Committee Director, $20.25 an hour. Ken Quintanilla, Communications Director, $19. Oh, he's no longer there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's no longer there. Patsy Cruz, Legislative Assistant at $15 an hour. Michelle Richardson, Legislative Assistant, $15 an hour. And Natasha Charfaris, Policy Analyst at $14 an hour. What about the central staff? Oh, here we go. No. Their central operations. Who's the Executive Director of the Legislature? Oh, I think it's Jermaine Alerza, right? He was in those pictures in Umatic. Jermaine, the executive director of the legislature, probably why he's not on the.
I thought he was at this.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's at this. He's a cabinet member now. So who's the executive director of the legislature? Anyway, chief fiscal officer is Agnes Cruz at $35 an hour. Stacy Solis is legal researcher at $36 an hour. Renee Meno is the clerk of the legislature, $30 an hour. Tom Unsiug, sergeant at arms, $30 an hour. Mary Maravilla is the committee on rules director, $24.50 an hour. Rudy Perez, the technical systems administrator, $24.15 an hour. Renee Cruz, human resources and payroll administrator, $24.15 an hour. Elizabeth Shinhara, legislative officer 3, $19 an hour. Ibarra Hernandez, legislative officer 3, $17.50 an hour. All of these are legislative officer 3. Daniel Perez, $17.50. All of these are making $17.50 an hour. Ryan St. Nicholas, Anton Ngatsa, Jeanette Crisostomo, and Andrew Jimenez. I worked with Anton, and my professional experience, he's underpaid. Legislative officers 2, the first one making $17.50 an hour is Joaquin Tadegui. The second one is Edward Pacagui Jr. at $15 an hour. The rest of them making $14.50 an hour. Those would be Vincent Paulino, Josephine Perez, Iwalani Paragas, Tricia Beneventi, Joseph D. Guerrero Jr., Jane Sasai, Nicholas Ichihara, and Elaine Johnson. Making $1,240 an hour is Peter Kichichu, legislative officer 2. Legislative officer 1, Louise Atelig, is at $16 an hour, $5 of which is being subsidized by the office of Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes. Tricia Ann Pakaigui making $14.50 an hour, $2 of which being subsidized by Vice Speaker Selena Nelson. Lamberto Dalmacio, legislative officer 1. These are all legislative officer 1s, making $14.50 an hour. Roy Kanata, making $14 an hour, 3 of which is being subsidized by Senator Amanda Shelton. Anthony Pakaigui. Now the rest are making $11 an hour as a legislative officers 1. Anthony Pakaigui, Brian Murdoch, Marco Fernandez, Cameron Nelson, Teresita Siblan, Amanda Mendiola, and this last one expired on November 22. And then Devin Gogui, part-time legislative officer 1, making $9 an hour. And finally, in the budget, for the Office of Finance and Budget, Llewellyn Terlahi, OFB budget analyst, $31 an hour. Vanessa Valencia, OFB budget analyst, $24 an hour. John Ray Tyson, the second policy research analyst, $14 an hour. Steve Guerrero, director of the Office of Finance and Budget, $2,884.62 an hour. Joseph Cabana, OFB budget analyst, $1,538.46 an hour. Epifiano Elicito, OFB budget analyst assistant, $1,120 an hour. Diana U. Garrido, administrative legislative assistant, $1,120 an hour. And those are your staffers in the Guam legislature. Now, those big rates that you saw, the $600 an hour, $3,000 an hour, and all that stuff, there's some adjustment that's made so that really it's not $3,000 an hour up for an 80-hour work week. That would be completely ridiculous. There's some sort of formula that they're using so that they don't actually get paid that much. What is the Guam legislature doing? Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 seats are now not occupied. 3 of them are roaming around. So 5 people are not inside the session hall, including Senator Clint Rigel, who's just sitting right outside the session hall, and behind him is likely Senator Regine Bisco Lee. So let's get to your comments. Sandra Regis says to go over the governor's staff payroll, including the department heads. We will. Rohian Kanko says they need to make an amendment to have China pay for all this shiz and stop wasting time and money. Joel May Lizama says, wow, $1,000 an hour. Judy May Kitigo says, those earning $17 an hour and up must have college degrees. Bandy Sanchez Hall says, Ansley Jackson, go work at the legislature, please. Jewel May says, what about you, Troy? How much an hour? Just kidding. Kandit is probably at less than minimum wage. Deliza Munoz Castro says, what a feat, all that an hour just to keep having recess. Lillian Torres says, it's not an hour for the really high amounts. They are reporting the biweekly rate more than likely paid in salary. Okay, so that's a pretty good explanation. John Torrey Manzanoni says, Umbi Busta across the board finishes the stimulus. Ansley says to Brandy, I'm good. He doesn't want to work for the Guam legislature. Jewel May says, hey, I heard my friend's name, Retta Hamilton. L. Flores says, Troy, I can hear you chewing. I'm gonna screw up all of that tomorrow, Deliza. Destiny Farnham says, for some reason he makes me malagu. John Manibusan says, I knew I was supposed to get my master's degree for that $800 an hour. Meryl Blills made a prediction that came true. Troy will be done reading all the payroll out and they still won't be back from recess. Lillian Torres says, it's not per hour for the really high amounts, i.e. $1,600, etc. They are reporting the biweekly gross for those employees, means they are getting a set salary or they are exempt, as they would call it in the private sector. Actually, all legislative employees are exempt. But you're right. There's some sort of different formula that they use to calculate that, and many times that is done to hide the true picture. Sometimes it's done because whatever actual technical reasons, but sometimes it's done to confuse the public. Clayton Hill says, I knew they'd have recesses, but darn, 10 recesses with not one legislation passed at 5 p.m. already? I am floored. Esther Barron says, you guys still there? John Manzanonia, any high school graduates making $200 an hour? Nicole Duhan Estevez says, how can we one of those positions? LOL, people would love to try those amounts. Yep. Clayton, or Destiny responds to Clayton's take on the whole recesses, and I even took 2 naps. Something is definitely wrong. Eileen Solosa says, Lord God, we claim a major breakthrough on Bill 334. You're there before us. You know their names on what goes on behind closed doors. You have the final say over your people's lives, no one else. Whatever it is going on in the midst that's not within your ways, let it rise. Nothing is impossible for you. Amen. Amen. Mark Uggins says, Pedo is the poster child for keep still. Yeah, no kidding, huh? Darren Gutierrez says, Troy, you should drop them dinner so they don't take a dinner break. $1 menu at Mickey D's. Ooh, I'm getting kind of hungry thinking about McDonald's. Even though I've got a lot of the food in front of me. Randy Blaz says, sorry, Troy, I just woke up from my nap after recess. Jewel May Lazama says, I kind of heard Cameron Nelson. Yes, she's one of those. I think she's making $11 an hour, if I'm not mistaken. Where in the world is the Guam legislature? My goodness, I read the whole staffing pattern and the comments, and they're not even back yet. Jesus Digwadi. Denise Legaspi says, Moylan's looking upset. He's probably tired of all of these recesses. Clayton Hill says, KMG, brace yourselves, part 5 coming soon. Jennifer Sabay says, just finished eating dinner and still they are not back. God help us. Can you guys share our stream? If you don't mind. While we're waiting. Who's not watching? That's a staffer, right? Any sign at all that these guys are going to go back come back from their moments recess? Recess number 10. Who's drunk on those shots?
Call one.
Hmm?
Call one.
Call one?
See if they can.
Oh. That's a good idea. Hey, girl, what's going on? Say hi to Kandit Land.
Hey, Kandit, what's up? Can you hear me with my phone is always so muffled already. Imagine with the mask on my face how muffled it is.
No, we can hear you. This is Senator Telos Hadikwi who took our call. Thank you, Senator. Why in the world are there so many recesses and what's taking so long?
Well, I guess they didn't plan this out very well, did they? You know, and how to move things through. So we're just waiting around for amendments. I tried to reach out and ask them to at least let's do a practice session before going into session, but that fell on deaf ears.
Well, Senator, talk to us about Bill 334 and your thoughts on it. That's the bill that will make the governor a dictator. What are your thoughts on Bill 334?
Well, of course, the way it's written right now, I don't support it at all. And I don't think my colleagues support it. $5,000 and then going to jail for driving on the road?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Okay, so I think I sent to you, Troy, the updated version of that bill to be revised. And I believe it starts off with a $100 fine for the first offense and then goes to $250 for the second offense. Now, my amendment is going to take away the criminal aspect of it, which I don't agree with whatsoever.
Good.
I mean, you can go from 100, 200, and then 500. I mean, the other thing that we can do here is take away the driver's license.
Okay.
Now, it's as simple as that. You know, suspend the driver's license for a year. And that's one way to get them off. And if they're still driving without a driver's license, then you'll have to suffer the consequences that way. But we all know that we have to do something, you know, to bend this curve, bend this peak that's coming our way. And I'm lessening down that definitely don't want to criminalize people for doing this. That's ridiculous.
I'm glad you feel that way, Senator.
Oh, absolutely. And my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, they feel the same way. We feel the same way about it. So what we're trying to do is trying to get our bills onto the floor. And you know that they didn't put any of our bills on the agenda. I sent a press release out, and we tried to work with them. They falling on deaf ears as well.
So,
and it's very unfair. I mean, I'm trying not to be so complaining a lot, but unfortunately it's very frustrating sometimes to hear when you're a minority and the majority leaves you out from being a part of trying to make things work. We have great ideas, great solutions to bring to the floor, especially great amendments like taking away the criminalization of that one bill.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like you said, it's to try and get in a word in edgewise. Now, we did speak with Senator Tulina Nelson earlier, who is willing to try and compromise and come to the table and work on bringing everyone be a part of this. And actually, some of the other stuff, it didn't happen so much. So now we're trying to move on this one bill that is very, this bill is kind of difficult because we want to make sure that the hazardous fund goes to people who are actually at the front of this, who are dealing with COVID-19 or having to be put in a situation where they have to work around that.
Yeah.
Hospital, police officers, firemen, or the EMTs. Okay, we're going back into session right now, Troy.
Thank you, Senator.
I
Thank you.
have to go, but call me anytime after. I'll
Thank
be
you.
happy to give you more information.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
sending it your way.
Okay.
Ms.
Thank
Mossy,
you.
Madam Speaker, and just for situational awareness, colleagues, this amendment in the file name is Sierra Bravo 326-35, TCN Foxtrot Alpha. SB 326-35, TCN Foxtrot Alpha, FA. Okay? The amendment reads on line 21, page 2, to add the following section to the bill beginning on that page. I'll ask the legal to ensure its proper placement. Is a director, agency, head, or equivalent thereof in the case of any government of Guam branch, agency, autonomous or semi-autonomous agency, department, instrumentality, public corporation, and all other entities of the government, no matter how designated, including but not limited to any mayor's office, shall promulgate rules and regulations to implement this section within 15 days of enactment of this act, Such rules and regulations shall include determinations of positions deemed essential under each category provided under this section. And so, Madam Speaker, in the course of the day, there's concern about the definition of essential because some non-essential employees are tasked to do or detailed to areas where they are risking exposure. And so here we're providing the heads of the agencies and departments to determine the essential work or the essential response specifically to COVID-19, so there's no gray area. So the director or the superintendent will say, this person exposed themselves, this is the person that receives the COVID-19 hazardous pay. Oh, and it includes the mayors, the concern that the mayors had, so that it's in there. I put mayors.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. On the main amendment, anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Is there an objection? There's an objection, or would you like to speak?
I'd like to speak, Madam Speaker.
You are recognized.
But if I may, I'm having problems getting on my Google Doc so that I can read the amendment. So if you just give me 1 minute to try and get on. It seems the storage is full. So I may have to look at somebody else's Google Docs, okay? In 1 minute. Motion for 1 minute.
Come on, sister, we just complained about this recess thing. The speaker is not even calling the recess. She's just ignoring the motion for the recess. So is this official? Do we take our recess count to 11? The speaker hasn't called it yet. Or what do we do?
We're standing by.
We're standing by. So don't take the shot, guys. Don't take the shot yet. Oh, Lordy. Oh, my goodness. Well, the good news is Senator Telos Hadik, we just talked to her a few moments ago and complained to her about the number of recesses before she just moved for a recess. The good news is that she said she and her Republican colleagues, there are 5 of them altogether, oppose the criminalizing of violations of governor's executive orders. Basically, it's the dictator bill. They oppose the dictator bill, and they will be making amendments to keep the smaller fines, but to take away the criminal misdemeanor portion of Bill 334.
Minority Leader, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand in support of this amendment. My concern was to ensure that the mayor's offices was not excluded. And it was, I'm glad that it was spelled out to ensure that they are included into this. The 15 days notice to implement rules and regs or whatever what's required in order to receive this hazardous pay. I'm glad that's incorporated into it as well. So I stand in support of this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Anyone else on the amendment? If not, are there Senator March Tachino on the amendment?
Does this include Best Pack?
Madam Speaker. In looking at this, I support the amendment and I really appreciate the flexibility that it provides. I think it does many good things and it helps take care of the concerns that we had of wanting to make sure that nobody is left out and no situation is left out. So with this situation, though, there's no check. We're not, in this time of urgency, we're not going through the AAA process or something like that. So I was thinking that one way to address this, just to have some checks and balances here, is to have the rules and regulations be certified by the governor's office, just to make sure that it falls in line with all of what is expected, and that there is some check to the rules and regulations that are going to be determined. I do have legal writing that amendment if if people are supportive of that.
I apologize, Senator Taitano, I didn't hear your last paragraph.
I was saying that I have legal writing that amendment.
Oh, what amendment? I wasn't paying attention. Did anybody catch that? I didn't catch it. What,
I didn't.
what was the amendment? I don't. Well, what does she want to amend? And why are we still on this bill?
Senator Marsh Taitano, is your amendment to this amendment?
Hungan, yes, this would be an amendment to this amendment.
Madam Speaker, perhaps if I may, point of inquiry on the Marsh Taitano amendment, if she could just read it, where the amendment would take, where the amendment to the amendment would be, and read the amendment to the amendment, so we can move forward.
I'll go check with legal on the status of the amendment.
I will give you the opportunity to check with legal right now. Anyone else on the main amendment?
Boy, if I were Kelly Tyson, I would be pretty pissed that legal counsel is not ready with that amendment. But she's probably yelling at them right now. If I were her, I'd be yelling at them right now. Like, what in the world are you paid for? Mark again says, read it, witch. They're no longer recessing for these little things. Oh, my Christine Park says recess is coming. Sabine Jargaloff, OMG. Denise Pangilinan, OMFG. Justine Flores, I can't take this serious when I hear Troy giggling in the back. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Marilyn Gumabon says, amend to amend. Tina Lizama, this is really a joke. Is everyone there lost? Sabine Chargaloff, LMFAO. Charlie Alec, amendment to the amendment to the amendment, LMFAO. Alan Nicholas, I think this is the hardest they have worked since they were campaigning. Rita Arceo, runaway bride. I think they're talking about Kelly Marsh running to the back to go to legal counsel. Mark again, Marsh was too into updating her profile on Plenty of Votes. What is Plenty of Votes? Denise Pangilinan says, check the amendment to the main amendment for the amendment to the amended amendment. Joyce Tyrant, the thoughts and brainstorming in the room go round and round, amendment to amend that amendment, and that amendment that amended all those other amendments. Andrew D. Rayred say, where is legal? Shouldn't he or she be in the room? Social isolation. Christine Park, they are denying all of us our shots. Yeah, right? This would have typically been called recess, wouldn't it?
We should move it out.
Well,
Instead of 11, move it to 12.
move it to 12? I don't know, the speaker didn't say it's recess, though. Is it real if the speaker doesn't say it?
But they kill the mics.
Yeah, right? If it quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Right.
I think this should be the 12th recess, you're right. Even if they didn't call it. Jack Swarovski says, this is the recess you have when you are not having a recess. Rudy Magalanen says, can't we Facebook these guys so we can put our input to them? Yes, please, please. Share this stream to their pages, actually. Jewel May Lizama says, they are getting panic attacks because we are watching them all. Martina Cruz says, Gueno ni Itza Tata Guini. I hope I didn't butcher that. Maya Gobi says she's going to end up withdrawing her amendment. Oh my gosh. That's what happened to the last 3 main amendments. They were withdrawn. One was by
Not sure.
Amanda Shelton, one was by Sabina Perez, and one was by Joe San Augustine. One of the staffers just said, subcategory, recess avoidance 2. Raynette Sablon says, I'd like to amend to that amendment to withdraw for recess, Joyce Tyron, and they are still not settled on the first bill. Esther Farron, like I'm watching them being quarantined over amendment.
Senator March Titano, you are still recognized.
Still waiting for legal.
No, the mic's still on. You still it? Kelly Tyson is probably upset right now because legal is not done with her amendment.
Senator March Titano.
Suzuis Maasi, Madam Speaker. So in speaking with legal, they are in the middle of emailing it, but to provide everybody the understanding. So there was some concern about the timeline. So legal is writing it up that the amendment that the Vice Speaker has proffered, that the work within the amendment of creating the rules and regulations will be done within 10 days. And then my amendment would be to have the governor certify those rules and regulations within 5 days so that it still maintains within the 15 days, but there is some check and balance and consistency across the board for the different agencies.
Would anybody like to speak to the amendment to the to Vice Speaker's main amendment? Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in support of this amendment. Can she just verbalize the amendment to the amendment on how it will be written so that we can move forward and we have the documentation? So if it's on the third line or the fourth line, that it shall read something, something, and something, right? I understand that we want to make sure it provides a checks and balance, that the governor wants to, that we'd like the governor to certify, and we don't want to lose any days in doing so. So she's taking the 15 days and separating it. She's taking 10 days to commit to the rules and then 5 days for the governor to certify so we don't lose any time. So if we can she could just insert it verbally here and we can call a vote, or anyone like to speak with her. Just a effort.
I guess Kelly Tyson's amendment is pretty all right. And Selena Nelson's like, in the nicest way possible, we need to get on with this show, yo. And she's like, this is harmless. Hurry up. Let's just do this. That's a one-liner, and I really don't understand what's taking Legislative Legal Counsel so long to put that together. But Selena Nelson's right. Kelly Tyson was the senator. She should just verbalize what this amendment is. It's on the record. It's recorded. It's going to be appended to the journal. Just make the darn amendment. Mark Huggins says, God, Marsh had a blonde fart. Clayton says, this better continue through to the weekend until real immediate help legislation is passed. Selena Babauta says, oh God, something and something into something. Let's hope LG says what the rest of us are thinking. Just finish already. Sabine Chartoloff says, how much money do they get paid for this circus? Alyssa Shintaku says she told her to back up. Who? Who told her to back up? What was happening? I missed it. How much money do they make? I believe senators make $55,000 and the speaker makes $60,000, if I'm not mistaken, a year. We can go to their salaries if you want to see their salaries. Oh lordy, this is. Are we in a recess?
You didn't see it.
Did they turn the mics off, or is the speaker's mic still on? Oh no, it went back on. Jennifer Sube says they're trying to get into stealth mode as much as possible. Eli Damian says they spend
On
more time in recess
the
than discussing the
Titano
bills.
amendment, Senator San Augustine, do you wish to speak?
Madam Speaker, while we're all patiently waiting for whatever legal is writing up, I would ask the indulgence of the Speaker and my colleagues that that amendment be paused and we pursue other amendments, and we can always come back to that. But to just wait for an amendment to an amendment, I think it's not fair to all of us, and the time is of the essence. We just go on to the next amendment, pause this one, deal with it, because the other amendments, if I'm correct, are not in the same area. They're in the other parts of the bill.
Thank you, Senator.
If the madam would consider that.
Vice Speaker, can you motion to set aside the amendment that you're proffering and then work on your third amendment? I will go ahead and accept that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to set aside this current amendment pending the Kelly Marsh Titano amendment to the amendment to move forward and address another amendment while we're waiting for legal to.
On that motion, without any objection, motion carries. Vice Speaker Nelson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The second amendment that I am proffering, it's not, I'm going to read it because I don't know the file name, but if you pull up the Google Docs, it's notwithstanding any provision of law, rule or regulation or executive order, the provision of the Department of Administration Personnel Rules and Regulations 8.406, authorizing payment at double the regular rate of pay shall not apply to the COVID-19 public health emergency and shall not be extended to employees eligible for COVID-19 pay, COVID-19 hazardous pay.
Oh.
So this is just to ensure that
oh, wow.
What's meant for this relief, this pandemic relief, goes to the pandemic relief and not conflicting with any other statute that exists. Because the crisis that we are facing has to deal with a pandemic crisis and not a natural disaster.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Nelson.
This is a natural
For my
disaster.
colleagues' sake, if you're trying to look for the document online, it's SB 326-35 TCN 2FA. Does everybody have a copy?
There's a big problem with this
Can everybody
amendment,
see
and it
it?
will likely end up in
Anyone
a lawsuit.
wishing to speak on the Nelson Amendment?
A civil action against the government.
Anyone
of
wishing
Guam.
to speak? If not, are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Vice Speaker,
Wow.
you still have the floor for another amendment.
So there's the answer
Thank
to
you,
your
Madam
double pay.
Speaker.
It's not going to happen.
Madam Speaker,
And
my
there are
next
problems with that.
amendment.
I'll explain that later.
Pulling it up, sorry. The next amendment is on line 8, page 3. And again, this was already forwarded to the clerk, so it should be in your file. It's to add a subsection 321.120.1, parentheses 3.
Give it to you.
Where it reads, Imagahagan Guahan. Okay, where it reads, Imagahagan Guahan shall submit a report to Legislaturan Guahan no later than 15 days after the termination of the state of the public health emergency pursuant to Chapter 19, Title 10, Guam Code annotated, and the report shall include all expenditures incurred pursuant to subsection 321120.1 of this chapter, and all transfers from the general or special funds and reimbursements from the federal government. So some of our colleagues have been concerned about the financial state we are in as a government. We understand that we're receiving federal funding, but this is just a measure for the sake of transparency.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Colleagues, you can find that amendment on SB 326-35 TCN 3FA. Does anybody wish to speak on the amendment? If not, are there any objections? Anyone wishing to speak? If there are no objections, Senator March Tachino, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
I'm just needing time to actually find it amongst the other amendments.
Madam Speaker, can you restate the file name?
To my colleagues, to find the document, it's SB 326-35 TCN 3FA.
Is the stream slow?
Did she find it?
Oh, it was just doing a circle thing. Todd Tanaka says Kelly is so slow. Amy Jackson says, "Which put your glasses on your face, not your head. Maybe you will find it." Oh my gosh. Sorry. Excuse me.
Anyone wishing to speak on the amendment? Senator Joseph Augustine, I will recognize you on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this amendment. This amendment basically just makes a requirement to close it out and report to us and tell us what were the expenditures and give us a full detailed financial report. That's all it's asking for. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're very welcome, Senator JSA. Anyone else wishing to speak on the amendment? If not, are there any objections? No objections? Motion carries. We are back on the Senator Marsh Titano amendment. For our colleagues to find it, it's SB 326-35 TCN KMTFA. Again, I will allow the author of that amendment, Senator Titano, to speak. Assistant Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Seduce Masi, Madam Speaker. So what this does is it creates some level of check for consistency, but also just having verification that the rules and regulations that have been promulgated do have some system of check to them. So as it reads, it will amend the amendment to take the 15 days. We're going to keep the 15 days, but we're going to split it into two parts. That was the recommendation of legal. So the rules and regulations would be implemented within 10 days, and then it says towards the end that it would be subject to written certification and approval by E. Magahagan Guahan within 5 days of receipt of said rules and regulations. So again, we're working to keep within the 15 days, but have some sort of check in place.
Thank you, Senator Taitano. On the Senator March Taitano amendment, anyone wishing to speak? Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm still having difficulty getting on, so if you can give me a minute or repeat that number that you stated earlier.
SB 326-35 TCN KMTFA.
Oh, it's the number of the bill, the number of the legislature, the main amendments, the initials of the main amendment mover, the initial of the mover of the amendment to the amendment, and then FA stands for floor amendment. That's how they're numbering and lettering these things. I was like, what are all these letters that they're saying? I don't even understand. I get it now. It's substitute bill 3-35 TCN, that's Talina Cruz Nelson. KMT, that's Kelly March Taitano. FA is floor amendment. I get it now. I was like, what
On
in
the
the world?
amendment, anyone else wishing to speak? Are there any objections? Hearing no Senator Taitigui, Minority Leader, you are recognized.
Sijus Masi, Madam Speaker. Okay, Madam Speaker, I see what they're doing. They're breaking up the days from the 10 days enactment of such rules and regulations.
Mark again says, too much marsh to activate marsh must say Beetlejuice 3 times.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to ensure that the shall be subject to written certification and approved. I just don't want to see anything delaying on getting funding to any of these agencies or people that need, who are entitled to this hazard pay. And it's not really clear. I think if I can have 1 minute, Madam Speaker, just 1 minute.
So you better not need that 1 minute, girl, because this is so simple.
Are we moving it to 13?
They didn't turn the mics off. Selena is now about to lose her shiz with Tello. Holy moly. Lena Lyons says, you mean you don't want to see your money go to the people in need is what you really mean, right? Oh, who's she talking to? I didn't see. What's that conversation about? Pam Cruz.
Minority Leader, you're still recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, after speaking to the author of the legislation, it was explained to me about the federal law and collaborating both with the timeline on closing out. So that was explained, and I thank you so much for the opportunity, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. On the motion, on the amendment, would you like to close, Senator Taitano?
Sijus Masi, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a small amendment to the amendment, if that's possible.
No, it's not possible at this time.
Thank you,
We need to close out on the amendment, and then I'll still give you the floor.
Sijus Masi.
On the Taitano amendment, are there any objections? Seeing none, motion carries. Senator Marsh Taitano, you're still recognized.
Sijus Masi, Madam Speaker. So to provide further clarity, we would like it to put in that it is 10 business days of enactment and 5 business days of receipt of said rules and regulations. So to just add those 2 terms, business, in between the number and the days, so that it's very clear and everybody's on the same page.
On that amendment, anyone wishing to speak? Are there any objections? No objections, hearing none, seeing none, motion carries. On the amendment, on the main amendment as amended, anyone else wishing to speak? Huh? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Vice Speaker, we now are on the amendment as amended. Are there anyone else wishing to speak on that? If not, are there any objections?
Madam Speaker,
Would you like to close on your amendment as amended?
no.
Thank you.
Are there any objections? Hearing none. Motion carries. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor to close.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank all my colleagues for their hard work on this bill. I want to thank our frontline personnel, our first responders, our nurses, our doctors, everyone in the community who is helping out, to include the businesses who are providing a lot of the PPE for our people and also working to assist the community in whatever we may need. So a big thank you, and I'd like to thank the governor for continuing to work diligently to protect our people, and the rest of the members at the executive branch for
Let's
the hard
take a
work they're
bet.
doing to
Are they
ensure
going to
that
take
we
a
get the
recess
assistance
before
that
they
we
go on to
need
the next
with
bill?
the federal
Or are
government
they going to
for
go
their
straight
enormous
into
work.
it?
Madam Speaker, with
I
that being
vote
said, I'd like to
for-
make a motion to add co-sponsors to the bill.
I say that they're going to go straight to the next
Senator
bill.
Josen Augustine, Senator Pito Terlahi, Senator Will Castro, Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano,
Everybody, just everybody.
Senator Taitagui, Senator Moylan, Senator Munya, Senator Terlahi,
Senator Amendment.
Senator Lee. She's in the other side of the room. And Speaker Barnes. Thank you.
On that motion, without any objection, motion carries.
Madam
Tony
Speaker,
Elgin says they will
I'd like to
recess.
make a motion to move bill number 326 into the third reading voting file.
326-35
I want the
CR
bet.
as substituted.
Oh, no, wait. No, I'm sorry. That was for Barb.
Correction, I'd like to make a motion to move bill 326-35 COR as substituted into the third reading voting file.
On that motion, without any objection, motion carries. Colleagues, we are now on Bill 340-35 COR. Will the author, Senator Regine Bisco Lee,
Oh,
I
this
will
is
recognize you
this
at
is
this
the
time.
local funding program. This is an important bill. Let's hear her. I won the bet. They went straight to the next bill.
I will call just a moment's recess.
Darn! I lost the bet. Recess number 13. Take your shot, guys. Now, if you are playing the amendment shot game, your blood alcohol content level is now at 40%. And you should be legally dead. So I hope you were not playing the amendment shot game and you've been playing the recess shot game, which by now you're very likely close to double the legal blood alcohol consumption level for driving on the roads. But you're not supposed to be driving on the roads anyway, because we are supposed to be socially responsible and socially isolating, lest the Guam legislature gives the governor of Guam the power to be a dictator. Nicholas Ichihara says he wins. Tony Uggan wins. Pat Saho points out that I lost. Amy Jackson says, burn, Troy. Oh, man. Nicholas Ichihara says, I'd like to withdraw my motion for recess
Senator-
and skip straight to amending my amendment.
Yamina 35 na legislature ng Guam is back from recess. Senator Lee, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, during our lunch recess, the governor announced plans to front millions of dollars in local government funds in order to pay out the first stimulus checks to individuals and children with an adjusted gross income range. Governor Leon Guerrero expects these payments to be made next week, and for these local funds the local funds used to be reimbursed as early as 2 weeks from now, when the entirety of Guam's share of the federal stimulus program is transferred. She has also made clear that using these funds will exhaust all available cash that won't jeopardize Guam's response to the ongoing COVID-19 health emergency. With all of this in mind, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you and my colleagues for your support of Bill 340-35 COR.
Don't do it, Regine.
Madam Speaker, this measure, entitled Recovery, Income, Support, and Empowerment, the RISE Act of 2020.
Don't do it,
It's
girl.
important to acknowledge the work of so many of our colleagues who have been working day in and day out for a way to offer locally funded economic relief to suffering families while we wait for federal assistance. Madam Speaker, I want to be clear. The road ahead is unclear, and things may change that will once again require this bill to be a bridge for our families.
she's
And I'm
doing it.
committed to keeping this measure alive so it can be an option to exercise. Perhaps it won't be the first local assistance that we pay out, but it may be the one that's used when we need it in the future.
She's
When our
kowtowing to the
people are
governor.
in need and we have the cash to pay for it.
Wow.
But with stimulus relief finally moving forward and with local dollars being exhausted with the governor's newly announced program, I believe that it would be in the body's best interest to review the governor's plan. And so with that, Madam Speaker, I respectfully move to set aside Bill 40 or
Wow.
Bill 340 at this time.
Unbelievable.
I apologize. You're moving to put.
Just to set it aside at
Bill
this time. And I just want to be
340-35
clear
CR.
for all of those watching that it will remain on the agenda for our emergency session. And I hope that we will expeditiously move through the remainder of the bills. And then at that time, once we've exhausted all the other bills, we can come back to this bill once we've had an opportunity to digest some of what the governor announced earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lee. On that motion to set aside Bill 340-35 COR as substituted, are there any objections?
It's like we already
Hearing
have a
none.
dictator being the governor.
Motion carries. Vice Speaker Nelson, please take the podium.
So then this is the bill we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. If you want more people to hear this discussion, please do invite people to watch this, host watch parties, share this or whatever, so that more people can hear this discussion. This is the one we've been waiting for. It's Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes' Bill 334. She has substituted it. We're about to see what the substitute measure is. The reason that the Speaker has asked Vice Speaker Nelson to take the podium is because the Speaker is going to go down to the floor and motion her own bill into the third reading file and begin the discussion and debate. This is the dictator bill, and we'll see. This is where we expect most of the action to be, most of the debate that might even get heated from senators. So everyone stay tuned. Please watch this. Please invite other people to watch this so that more people are aware of exactly what is going on with our legislature. This is probably the most important bill that will have been discussed by a Guam legislature in a very, very long time. There's Therese Terlahi putting on her gloves. She's ready to fight. Please, Senator Terlahi, be against this bill. I understand that there are actually some pretty good practical compromises that the Speaker has made in the substitute bill. Those compromises, though in practical effect are good, still make the governor a dictator. So let's see how this all pans out. Lena Lyon says maybe these people should have their bank account frozen so they know truly what the people of Guam have in their daily struggle. This is so sad to watch. I pray for the people of Guam. Lena is watching all the way from Washington.
Colleagues, we're going to take a moment's recess.
Number 14. Take your 14th shot, guys. Nicholas Ichiara says, F him up, Therese. Dumbole, this is the second time he's posted this. Just give the governor the power. Joyce Tyron says, go there, Therese, you got this. Let's see what these other comments are. Hi, Bojo. Jovi Castro says, MC promises. Okay, so let's go over what the what happened with Senator Regine Lee's bill number 340. She is setting aside the bill to be discussed later so that she and the movers or the authors of Bill 340 can go over the governor's plan. And if reasonable minds prevail in the review of the governor's plan, they will understand that the governor does not have the authority to use local revenues to front the federal cash assistance payments. And so therefore the governor's plan is non-viable and it can't work. But even before that, what Senator Lee and her co-sponsors of her Bill 340 should understand or should acknowledge is that there really isn't funding to see her bill through, unless that funding is going to be cutting into tax refunds. Whatever the legislature passes that is not something directly related to the federal assistance program, any money matter that the legislature passes, including the hazardous pay bill that just went onto the voting file. Oh, what happened to the live stream? Does not have a real funding source behind it, because by June, the government of Guam is going to run out of money to pay for it, even its non-discretionary items. And that's after exhausting $117 million in federal funding, federal stimulus funding meant to make up for budgetary shortfalls because of COVID-19. Where the stream is offline, do you know what that means? Does that mean that they stopped it?
Yeah.
So let's go back to see if they're Oh, there. Let's see. Of course this would happen.
Minority Leader,
there we go.
on that amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just, the proffer of the amendment to answer a question.
That ended.
Say the question.
First, again, to repeat what that amendment is and what is.
So the live stream ended. Hopefully they're booting it back up. What's going on? Yeah, I'm asking a couple people at the legislature. Oh, they had to reset the stream. So we'll just wait for them to come back on. Okay, it resets after a while. Going on now. Sorry, everyone. We're just waiting for the legislature to go back online. They had said they had to reset the stream. I really wanted to watch Netflix today. And I wanted to exercise while there was still sunlight. Do I need to, like, close this and then go back to YouTube or something? Oh, we're live on YouTube too. Cool. Legislature live stream. Nothing yet. Sandra Ray just says you have a lot of time to exercise during a recess. Dumbledore says I watch all new releases on Netflix. I am still on season 3, the first couple of episodes of season 3 of Ozark. It is really good. I love Darlene from Ozark. I need to watch Mass too. I'm sure it's already happened and I missed it. What a heck, man. What is going on here? Chirac said it was going up now. It's rebooting, says one legislative staffer. Thank you, Eva. Let's call Senator Jim Moylan is on the line right now. Do you think the speaker had them reboot the system so that she wouldn't have to say recess? Right? I think we might be right there. Sandra Rita says free recess for them till they are back live. Mark again says, what's funny is that they turn off the legislature to give legal time to block candidates. Denise Pangilinan says, yep, there are no such things as coincidences, replying to Lori, who said, they don't want us to watch. Denise Pangilinan says, I bet a civil suit against this administration would get their attention because then the world will be watching. See, the unfortunate thing, Denise, is that the courts are closed, which is one of the main arguments against the dictator bill, because when you throw people in prison and the courts are closed, Well, essentially, there's no writ of habeas corpus, which is a fundamental tenet of democracy or of a republic, of any functioning society that values justice. The ability for the accused to have their day in court and to be brought before a judge. Amy Jackson says Tiger King is next. I still don't understand that whole Tiger King and Carol whatever thing. I just keep seeing it everywhere. Dumbole says, I like Pablo Escobar. You're talking about, what is the name of that show? The Netflix original series? It started with Pablo Escobar, then it went on to the Cali Cartel. Narcos. Dumbo, yes, Ozark is really good. Amy Jackson says I started Ozark yesterday. It's good, right, sister?
Try refreshing show.
Oh, is it up?
Someone said it's back on.
Hell froze over?
Read it through.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. We're back on. Or maybe not.
Sure that everything is in order, so at this time,
Sorry, I pressed the button.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to make a notwithstanding motion. Notwithstanding the House rules, I'd like to make a motion that we place Bill number 336-35, which is an act to direct the expedited procurement of critical medical supplies to save lives on Guam during the COVID-19 pandemic through the amendment of subsection 19803 of Chapter 19, Title 10, Guam Code annotated to be the next bill we discuss.
on that motion, is there an objection? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries.
I guess
Senator
not.
Therese Serlahi, we will recognize you at this time.
What's going on?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues for allowing this bill to be heard now. I would move to place Bill 336-35 COR as substituted on the floor, which is an act to direct the expedited procurement of critical medical supplies and temporary housing for frontline healthcare professionals and unsheltered homeless persons to save lives on Guam during the COVID-19 pandemic through the amendment of Section 19803 of Chapter 19, Title 10, Guam Code annotated.
336.
I think I read it an amended title.
Yes, thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah.
On the motion, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, pursuant to the Islan Guahan Emergency Health Powers Act, which is Title 10, Chapter 19, the governor has the authority to transfer up to $100,000 monthly from the general fund as an emergency appropriation upon the declaration of a public health emergency. This is to address, mitigate, or abate any catastrophic disease control situations relating to the spread or outbreak of communicable diseases, or for any biological threats. The governor is allowed to utilize the emergency appropriation up to 3 consecutive months per emergency and up to $600,000 for any fiscal year. After those, so as we've been going along, it's only been 1 or 2 months now. I think they're in the second month of this $100,000 authorization. And so this bill is to allow the governor an additional transfer authority up to $4 million so that, in particular, that we can take care of this unprecedented life and death challenge that the COVID-19 pandemic presents to us, and the necessity to efficiently and rapidly mitigate the high level of destruction that this virus is capable of inflicting on our island and in the lives of our people. The intent is to authorize this additional transfer to secure the following critically needed supplies and equipment. 1 is ventilators. 2 are personal protective equipment such as gloves and masks, which we continue to hear from nurses stationed at the hospitals and in the clinics that they are deathly afraid that they are running low. And I know that we've got public health and the surgeon cell up at Adelup, and many people on Guam working very hard to obtain these supplies, but still we face this global shortage. The third is for the COVID-19 test kits, which are absolutely necessary to identify those infected, to make sure they get proper medical care, to stop the spread, and also to protect our healthcare workers. We really need a lot more of these tests right now, Madam Speaker. We know that acquiring these are a challenge nationwide, worldwide really, and that we're hoping that this increased authorization will enable our government to really do anything that it has to do to procure these swiftly, to provide these, to get them to the frontline medical professionals. This increased transfer authority will also be used, the bill also proposes that it be used for the acquisition of temporary housing for COVID-19 exposed nurses, emergency medical personnel, and other healthcare providers at the Guam Memorial Hospital, the Department of Public Health and Social Services, and any healthcare clinic. These are the nurses that you've heard, maybe, they're pleased where they're asking us, they've asked the government, and the government has provided some. And this is just to make sure that if they need more, that they're able to do that. It's so that these nurses who know they have a high risk of being exposed, they're dealing with COVID patients, that they do not need to go home. They have a safe place to go and rest in between shifts. This would also, it's under the direction, it says, any other healthcare clinic that acts in accordance with the COVID-19 Unified Response Effort, this CURE action team, during this state of emergency. This would also authorize the acquisition of emergency temporary housing for COVID-19 exposed persons currently experiencing unsheltered homeless. And this is just to, I know that the governor is also working on housing for the homeless, and so I'm hoping that all goes through and this might not be needed, but this is particularly for COVID exposed. And of course, I hope this is a large amount of money. I'm hoping that all of our efforts to combat COVID-19, are going to be part of the reimbursable expenditures with federal funds. That's my hope. I can't confirm at this moment. Things move too fast, but that's what we're hoping. And so we're trying to authorize it by this bill so that they can just get ahead of this game and not have to wait for the federal procurement, federal supplies, federal money, and that they can get whatever we can obtain now. That's the goal, Madam Speaker. As you know, Madam Speaker, normally when we're talking about money, I'm probably the one in here asking a million questions. And unfortunately, these are just times that are unprecedented. And we can't ask those questions now. And I feel like when it comes to life and death and whether we're going to have a ventilator or we're not, that, we're just going to have to trust. And we're going to have to give this authority and trust that those all over the government in every level, that they are doing their due diligence, that we are going to, report when reporting time comes as to what they acquired with this money, and that we are going to protect the government from abuse. We must trust that, everyone is going to do that duty to prevent fraud and abuse, and that even the private sector and those companies where we are procuring from, that they will not take advantage of the desperate situation that we are in. Sometimes we hear stories, but Madam Speaker, things are moving fast, and we're just going to have to move fast to procure these and pray and trust that fraud and abuse are really not an issue, because I can't write a bill in an emergency like this that's going to tie the hands of the governor. We need to let her, this entire statute gives her this broad authority, her and the public health authority, the public health director, to do this, to do everything in their power to obtain what they need. In fact, to take over, medical clinics, supplies all over the island, to make sure that they can restructure that and put it to the front lines where it is needed. And my understanding is that we've they do this, we're looking at like a 2-week basis that they can predict they've got enough supplies for 2 weeks, but they have to constantly monitor and constantly shift those around to make sure that nobody runs out on the front lines. So I would very much like to ask my colleagues and thank them for their support on this and all the efforts of the government, but for this bill, I ask for your support, and I humbly ask that we allow this authority. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome, Senator Chalayi. Anybody else on the main motion? Senator Joseph Augustine, I will recognize you.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of the bill. Even though we know for a fact that there's additional federal money coming, so we're going to get reimbursed for this expense. That's what I'm expecting. But I'd like to ask the author if she would yield to a simple but necessary amendment. And it deals with the section there where it says immediately provide temporary housing for the following. The only amendment there is to add temporary housing / meals and incidental essentials. And the only reason why is that we put them in a house, but then they need to be fed. And we don't want our folks having to go out there and having to buy what they need to stay healthy and take care of our poor folks. To include when it goes all the way down, and it's just to cover that. And I hope that my colleagues will support that simple amendment, but essential amendment to include that. Just meals and essentials. And that's normally on a GSA
On
verbiage.
Senator Therese, would you like to yield?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think that's an excellent amendment. I'd like to thank my colleague for it. And, and just remind everyone again that this bill is a transfer authority. So it doesn't mandate that, if they have other means of obtaining any of these equipment, that it's an option. So I think that's an excellent amendment that we also cover the food when necessary. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I will offer that you're speaking on the amendment. So there is a proper amendment proffered by Senators Joseph Augustine. Anyone else wishing to speak on it? Anyone else? Are there any objections? Hearing or seeing none? Well, if I may, I do apologize. I will go ahead and take the gavel back. I did not see the hand of Senator Clint Rigel, who was out. Senator Clint, I will recognize you at this time.
Is this mic? It's not there. Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I have a point of inquiry if the author of the bill would yield.
Please state your question, Senator Clint Rigel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question for the author is, this measure authorizes transfer authority. Is this transfer authority that the governor already possesses? I believe the governor has transfer authority over 15% of the executive budget.
Thank you. Senator Chalayi, would you like to yield?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. This is transfer authority, I believe, in addition to that transfer authority, just like what is in the underlying Emergency Health Powers Act, where we add on to any other transfer authority, this specific transfer authority. And this transfer authority, they have to comply with the entire act. So it's to take care of all the necessary, it's particularly for the pandemic, Madam Speaker. Yes.
Thank you, Senator Chalayi. Senator Clint Rigel, you're still recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If I could follow up to that question to the author. Have you spoken to the governor's office to determine whether or not this transfer authority is necessary, or if the governor possesses enough transfer authority to currently procure these items?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my understanding that they are using the authority under the existing Emergency Health Powers Act. They are using that, and so they are maxed out under that 100,000, and so that they do need this. I know I have not spoke to the governor directly about this.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Chelati. Senator Clint, you're still recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, for the author, have you asked the governor's office if they are having, if the issue with procuring these items is one of a cash issue, that they need the money to procure the items? My understanding is that many of the items here, particularly the ventilators, the PPEs, and the other items, it's an issue of a worldwide shortage, so it's a supply issue. Does the author know if it is, in addition to a supply issue, is it a funding issue as well?
I think that's what we're trying to prevent, that we know that there are procurement issues because of shortage of supply. However, there has been, talk from the medical team that that they're being held up because of, they maxed out the 100,000 versus whatever other, funding issues. And I wanted to ensure that funding is not the issue. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. Senator Clint, you still have the floor.
But if I may just add to that, Madam Speaker, I think one of the issues is that, sometimes the supplies are just available in such large bulk. You have to buy them in large bulk, so the amounts are just, they so easily exceed their 100,000 authority. That's what's going on, Madam Speaker.
Thank
I forgot
you.
to mention that. And the ventilators, of course, the cost for one is very expensive.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. Senator Clint, I'll still give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, to the author of the measure, are you aware of whether or not the governor's office is able to use their current transfer authority outside of the pandemic transfer authority, but their regular transfer authority that they are afforded as a result of the Budget Act? As we all know, the governor has about 15% transfer authority the governor can use throughout the duration of the fiscal year after the budget was passed. Is that money available to be used for these purposes?
I believe,
Senator Therese, you're
thank you. I would
recognized.
yield to that question, Madam Speaker. And I think, as I stated when I introduced this bill, that this is another tool for the governor to use in addition to all the other tools that she has. And in addition to expedited procurement procedures in an emergency, expedited, other transfer authority. And in addition, I even specified, in addition to the what was at one time estimated to be $80 million of transfer authority. I can't verify that number without, the fiscal team here, but it's an additional tool, and just to make sure that there is no issue as to funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Clint.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is there a way we can find out how much transfer authority they have left to see if this 100,000 is necessary?
Senator Therese, would you like to use that question?
All I know is that I don't know how much is left. We've asked that question of the fiscal team when they were here before, and I remember, I'm not going to quote my memory because I might be off, but if I remember correctly, Mr. Byrne from DOA told us the governor had $80 million of transfer authority. When we tried to find out what transfers had occurred during fiscal year 2020, we can't find any record of any, Madam Speaker. So that's all. I'm just trying to make sure that, and I know that they are using this $100,000 for the last 2 months. So I don't want to wait for the third month, as the original law lays it out. They have to wait for the third month in order to get that additional 100,000. I want them to be able to access whatever they need now. I feel like now is the time to be procuring, not any other time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Clint, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no further questions. However, I would like to speak on the measure before we close out.
Situ Samasi. On the main motion, Senator Minority Leader, you're recognized.
Sijus Masing, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to commend the author of this legislation. The Oversight Chair of Health this is definitely up her alley, and I know that since March 16th, when we all been bunkered down, a lot of information, a lot of phone calls, being up through the evening, talking with the health professionals, as well as public health, and everyone that is dealing with this crisis on a health issue. Everything from the SNA, the nursing skilled unit, ensuring that goes up. And I believe this measure that's before us, Madam Speaker, is definitely needed. It's something that in the current law itself, if people don't realize that in Chapter 19, it talks about the emergency, being in an emergency situation, and allowing the governor only $100,000 per month, and only up to $600,000 after 3 consecutive months. As we know, I think this legislation was created quite some time ago, and 600,000 doesn't go a long way with a population of 170,000 people on this island. So the ability to allow the governor the additional 400,000 under this particular section of law in chapter 19 is clear. My question, though, to the author and to ensure, and what she said earlier about not tying the governor's hands, it's important. Sometimes decisions have to be made right that minute, right that moment. And so I have a question with the author, if she so shall yield to that question.
Senator Teresi, would you like to yield to the question?
I would yield. I must have missed the question, though.
Oh, I haven't asked it
Yeah,
yet.
that's what I
Okay,
thought,
okay.
Madam.
So my question, Madam Speaker, is the procurement process in Chapter 19, discussing the emergency. Does the procurement, is it lifted? Is it waived? Does it allow the governor to just go out utilizing these funds without having to get 6 or 3, or even just without going the lengthy process of the procurement law?
Well, in our regular, I will yield, Madam Speaker, to that question and thank my colleague. Yes, under our regular procurement law in Title V, that we have emergency procurement, supposed to be expedited procedures, which, and apparently all these procurements with this $100,000, the original $100,000, have been following that expedited procurement.
And that's good to know. And that's
Thank
important.
you, Senator Terlahi. Minority Leader, you got the floor.
And that's very good to know. And then the reason why it's put in this funding is put in this particular chapter of the law. I do know that, Madam Speaker, earlier on, there was a letter that was sent to the governor by the OFB chair, as well as yourself, to the governor, requesting the $4 million that was transferred out of certain agencies, even the University of Guam, their judicial branch. And it was questioning her for why she's taking it out of these department and agencies, especially education, was a big concern. And I haven't heard her response. I haven't seen a letter responding to your question, feeling that it should be, the $4 million should be equally distributed, or the transfer equally distributed amongst all agencies to be fair. And though I was privy to, and all of us were privy to that letter that was sent to the governor, the response from the governor was not. So I don't know what she said about this, but it's funny that this says $4 million, and that's exactly what she was taking out from all, was transferring out of certain agencies. So I'm not sure and who to ask about that. But I do know now that this definitely would give her the authority to do so. And I only hope that our governor does do what you requested, Madam Speaker, and to, as well as the OFB chair, that when she does do this transfer authority, that it's done equally across the board from all agencies. One other question, Madam Speaker. Some of the legislation that we have passed, and especially the one prior to this, required a reporting requirement on letting us know when the funds that are being used and where it's being transferred out of, and how it's being utilized. And I would like to ask if the author did incorporate that particular part in the legislation, and if not, would it be feasible to do so by incorporating a reporting requirement?
Senator Chalayi, would you like to yield?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, the underlying law, which is why I tied it to this law, because this law has a lot of those protections already built in. It does require reporting by the governor of any transfers.
And that, yes, thank you for that. And that being said, Madam Speaker, I stand in full support of this bill. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Senator Luis Muñoz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have a question for the author, if she would so yield.
Please take your question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So my question is, I just wanted to clarify, the $4 million is in addition to the 600,000 total transfer authority. So she'll have opportunity to transfer 4,600,000 total?
Senator Therese.
That's possible, yes. But the way that the underlying statute is written, in one declaration, you get 3 months, 3 consecutive $100,000 transfers. So 3 months, $100,000 each. And then it says up to $600,000 per fiscal year, but it doesn't really explain how you get from the 300,000 to the 6. So I think that might require a second declaration. I'm not sure, but to be honest with you, Madam Speaker and colleagues, this law, I was legislative counsel for over 25 years, and I have never seen this statute implemented. This emergency has never been, we've never experienced this, at least, that in my knowledge. So it's a superpower statute, and it,
yes.
And it rightly so, we can see now, it was very well done. It gives the governor and the public health authority superpowers and an ability to act quick beyond anything we've ever seen, and to take charge of facilities that don't even belong to the government of Guam, personnel all across the island, any kind of licensed personnel. It allows them to put any regulatory laws on hold. I mean, imagine this. I've never seen it in my lifetime, and so, but that's because of, I think, they thought that out, and that's the kind of power you need when you're facing a situation like this. So it's such an extraordinary circumstance. But yes, it might end up being that if they can find a way.
Senator Luis Muñoz, you still have the floor. Does that help?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much, and I rise in support of this bill. In times of crisis like we're going through right now, I think the governor does need the authority to act quickly, so we don't lose any more of our people, and we need to get those test kits in and the PPEs as soon as possible. I've been able to see some of the costs of some of the test kits and the face mask and what it could cost the government of Guam. And I think in a times of crisis like this, that the governor needs the authority to act accordingly and quickly so that we can save our people. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this bill.
Buen provecho, Senator Muñoz. Anyone else on the main motions? Senator Joseph Augustine.
Madam Speaker, just for point of information, as the previous colleagues have asked, the question is that, has the governor already reached her transfer authority to transfer among the government of Guam? No, she hasn't. I just got off the phone with the Office of Finance and Budgeting. She's only transferred up to about 11 million. So she still has some authority to still transfer within the government of Guam. I'm in support of this bill with its intent of what it's for. Maybe with the author, maybe we can word it differently to basically tell the governor, you're authorized to transfer 4 more million within your authority to buy what you need to buy to protect our people. Because at this point, from the Director of Office of Finance Budget is saying that if she reached her max amount, then if she needs the additional authority, then that's where we come in. And that's the information I wanted to provide to our colleagues. So she still has some authority to still move money. Okay, so I leave that to the author and to my colleagues. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you for the point of information. Anyone else on the main motion? Anyone else on the main motion? Senator Clint.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So in light of that new information that was just revealed by the chairman of the Office of Finance and Budget, it seems apparent to me that the governor currently has this within her authority to purchase the items that we're looking to reauthorize again through this measure. So in light of that information, I'd like to make a motion to send the bill back to committee.
There's a motion to send Bill 35 back to committee. Is there an objection? There is an objection.
On the motion, Madam Speaker, I object very much to that motion. It just, I can't figure the mentality that would tell us that, first of all, if you've been following along with this pandemic, we needed ventilators since day one, Madam Speaker. We did not get ventilators. Only this week, the governor announced we're going to get 30 ventilators from FEMA. I'm so glad, because we have only about, I think, 20 some island-wide, and maybe only, I want to say 12, I can't remember the numbers now, maybe 13 at GMH, Madam Speaker, but there's no, we did not have ventilator capacity. And this week, we had Dr. Cabrera show the whole island what we are facing. And if we curb this pandemic 50% more than we are trying to curb it today, we might still have 700 deaths. And before people die of COVID-19, Madam Speaker, they can't breathe, and we need to put them on ventilators. And that's why we are fighting for ventilators, Madam Speaker, because our government has moved quite slowly in getting these, Madam
Yes.
Speaker, to be honest.
You are right,
Same thing
girl.
with the test kits, same thing with the PPEs.
Finally, someone
Why
said
at
it.
this stage are we having nurses crying to us about PPEs? And I don't want to take away from the efforts of these people who are working so hard. But I do want to say, I do want to make a point, Madam Speaker, with this bill that money should not be the option. It should be that the government puts the money in that we need to get this equipment, Madam Speaker, today, not tomorrow.
I apologize.
Point of personal privilege, Madam Speaker.
Is that a point of personal privilege, Senator Clint?
Yes, to be clear, the point I'm making is that the governor already possesses this within her authority, so this bill does nothing. The issue is not...
Wait, what happened?
Not a matter of cash. The governor has the cash. She has the transfer authority. The issue is a lack of ventilators worldwide. It's a worldwide shortage of ventilators. There's a worldwide shortage of personal protection equipment. You can just Google it. New York's asking for ventilators. Trump's telling New York they don't need ventilators because Trump doesn't have enough ventilators to pass around. Just watch the news.
Madam
It's
Speaker,
on the news
point
every
of
night.
personal privilege,
Thank you,
Madam
Madam
Speaker. If I don't know what this conversation is going to
Therese.
turn into when people are going to tell me to watch the news, because I watch the news every single day.
Senator
and I
Therese,
watch
please.
what happens at the hospital every single day. and worldwide, Madam Speaker.
Please.
So I think that's really a ridiculous conversation
Please,
to
with
have
all
right
due
now.
respect.
And if I
I
may
will
say,
note-
it's not that money is not, is
Senator
is
Therese,
not
if
the
I may
issue, Madam
please,
Speaker.
with all due respect, Senator Clint, she does have a floor. I was checking with the clerk on motions to refer back. That is not debatable. I was getting a clarification on that. There has been a motion to refer back. There has been an objection. I must call for the vote. All those who are in favor to place Bill 333 back to the,
Point
to
of
refer
information.
back.
Point of information, Madam Speaker, it's Bill 336.
I'm sorry, 336-35. Thank you for the clarification. There has been an objection. All those in favor to refer this bill back, please signify by raising your hand. Motion fails. Anyone else on the main motion? Anyone else on the main motion? If not, Senator Terlahi, would you like to close?
I would, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank my colleagues for their consideration and for not sending the bill back to committee. Thank you very much. I just want to say, obviously, I've been following the government of Guam's finances, and I am perplexed as well. If they needed the money and they could transfer from their other transfer authority, I would guess that they would. And this is just another option for them because they seem to be using the statute that I am talking about here. They are using this $100,000, if they're informing me correctly. They're using this authority, not their other transfer authority. And that's why, Madam Speaker, it seemed very relevant to me that we expand this Emergency Health Declaration Transfer Authority. And I can't explain it more than that, Madam Speaker, except for the urgency. And again, people are working so very hard, and we are so glad to be getting the equipment that we are getting. But if you look at what we need versus what we have today, after this much time, I want to give the community more assurance than that, Madam Speaker, that we are doing our absolute best. And if the governor doesn't need this transfer authority, then that's just fantastic. But I'm saying, while we are waiting for federal funds, if they can use this, use it, get reimbursed, fine. Just whatever it will take to get the equipment here as fast as we absolutely can. That's the point. That's what's most important. And Madam Speaker, I very much thank my colleagues if they could consider that. And I would like to humbly ask if we can add some co-sponsors to this bill. Of course, I've done this with your support. I'd like to ask Senator Sabina Perez, Senator Luis Munoz, Senator Jocelyn Augustine, you, Madam Speaker, Senator Telotay Tugui, Senator Nelson, Senator Pito Terlahi, Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano, all of us, Madam Speaker, because I know all of us have had the very same concern for the people of Guam. Senator Will Castro, Senator Nelson, I said already, Vice Speaker, right? Senator Lee, Senator Jim Moylan, Senator Mary Torres. Sizulis Maasi to all my colleagues, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
On that motion, are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. We are
I think they just moved the Senator's free
colleagues,
bill.
that was the motion to place the names. Now the motion to place Bill 336-35 as substituted to the voting file. All those in favor? Any objections? Hearing none. Motion carries.
So
colleagues,
that bill is now in the voting file.
We are now on Bill.
Madam Speaker?
Yes, Vice Speaker.
There has been a request to recess until Monday at 10 a.m. Roger.
At 9.
At 9. There's been an amendment to that to request a recess at 9 a.m.
On that motion, without any objection, motion carries.
Okay, so it looks like we can all breathe a sigh of relief, at least for now. Our freedoms will not be taken away tonight. What happened earlier, there's what happened publicly, and there's the backstory to it. So earlier, publicly, Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes' dictator bill number 334, was moved back on the session agenda. And the backstory is that it seems that the senators and the speaker want to do what is necessary to give the governor certain authority to enforce her public health emergency executive orders while not making the governor a dictator. So it seems that cooler heads are prevailing at the Guam legislature. We're very happy to hear about that. That bill will not be discussed until Monday when the legislature goes back into session at 9 a.m. The other bill that was placed in the back burner was Senator Regine Lee's bill number 336 or 340, I can't remember. And that's the bill that creates a local funding program to pay out, on top of the $1,200 per person and $500 per child, $400 per tax filer using local funds. And so that's been pushed to the back burner as well. The bill that they weren't able to get to that is pretty significant is Therese Terlahi's deadlines bill, the one that places or sets deadlines on the Department of Revenue and Taxation and the Guam Department of Labor on the things they need to do in order to align the local programs to get direct cash assistance from the IRS with Department of Rev and Tax, and to get the pandemic unemployment insurance weekly payments to unemployed and furloughed workers between U.S. Department of Labor and Guam Department of Labor. It was not next on the agenda. I believe the trash burning bill was next on the agenda. And then there was a bill after that. I can't remember what it is, but then after that would have been that pandemic unemployment, the federal bill by Senator Therese Terlahi. So unfortunately, that's going to be pushed back now because session has been recessed to Monday at 9 a.m. I'm guessing they just did not want to go into session during Holy Week, even though they because Thursday is part of Holy Week. So Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter, the legislature will be back in session Monday at 9 a.m. The very good news is that we can all hold on to our freedoms at least through Easter. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres, and Eric Rosario is at our producer's desk. Thank you so much for joining us throughout this day.